Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and I'm back on it yet again with yet another video on Colleen Ballinger. So if you've been following this saga, you'll know there's so much to get through and such a little amount of time in order to do it, you know, because people have lives, you know. So this I came across the other day and I thought I need to talk about this because it is quite brilliant and I don't think enough people are talking about it right now. So this is an article on this website, apologisetome.com. By all accounts, it's just an article writing website or some description. Anyway, for those that are not aware, Colleen Ballinger / Miranda had their own Netflix special series called Haters Back Off, ironically. And this person who's writing this article was in the writer's room from that very show and gives a very incredibly detailed insight into the psyche, as much as one possibly could, of Colleen Ballinger. So the writer of this article, she's called April, and it's titled On Cancel Culture, Accountability and Being in the Writer's Room with Miranda Sings. And this article was only written at the end of June, so it is very recent after all of the allegations etc. have come out. So it'll be an interesting read to see exactly what went on in the writer's room. We don't often get an insight into that, so let me have a look. She starts off: being the writer's assistant / showrunner's assistant / writer's PA on Haters Back Off. That's right, you heard that right. 3 job titles, and still every month that I made rent was an absolute miracle. Was my first real job in Hollywood. A fresh-faced recent college graduate, I had been warned that your first job in a writer's room can be grueling. It's customary to spend years paying your dues, working long hours, fetching countless happy vegan salads and skinny vanilla lattes for the higher-ups, the usual fare. And I was prepared for that, excited even. What I wasn't prepared for, however, was the unique set of circumstances that I was walking into. I assume she's talking about Miranda. Despite my legacy of being extremely online, which I believe refers to people who are always online, it's self-explanatory really, I was not that familiar with Miranda Sings, the character at the centre of the show. I remember the night before my first day on the job, I clicked on her YouTube channel and watched video after video in pure confusion, just like most of us probably did when we first had a look at what the fuck Miranda was, you know. Isn't this supposed to be for kids? You know, she's working on the series on Netflix, so she's looking at this show and thinking this is supposed to be for kids. She was dressed up like Bozo the Clown, but she kept making odd jokes about being molested. I mean, right, on the face of it, yeah, that sounds a bit odd, doesn't it? I mean, it's kind of the same confusion that most of us have when looking at that and thinking, why is she talking about being molested to children? It just doesn't seem to add up. And in one clip, I saw her on stage encouraging what appeared to be a small child to literally reach into her pants and rummage around a bit. We've all seen those clips, and again, we've all thought the same thing. I texted my friends hoping one of them could explain her appeal to me because clearly I was missing something. The show was going into pre-production at the peak of her fame, and this woman was huge. She had a New York Times best-selling book. Oh yeah, we've all seen it. Jerry Seinfeld's stamp of approval, and millions of fans, mostly middle school aged, who hung on her every word. I didn't get the comedy, but I chalked it up to a matter of taste. Packed up my studio rental laptop and my brass script brads and headed in for my first day of work. This was 2016, only a few months after a fellow April Rain, launched the Oscars So White campaign. So it goes without saying that I was the only black person in this office. And as uncomfortable as that made me feel as a POM, person of Midwestern experience, I knew how to make nice in a white space. Upon meeting Colleen, my first impression of her was that she was boisterous, opinionated, and had a stunning lack of humility that was unlike anything I had ever seen. Immediately upon entering the writer's room, I was treated to story after story about her sold-out shows, how obsessed her fans were with her, and the lengths they would go to get her attention. So it sounds like our little meek Miranda wasn't that meek, really, was she? She was like, oh my god, all these people, they love me so much. Oh wow, yay. Love the attention, clearly. On the second day, she hauled in a small portion of her collection of art. Fucking hell. of her art by her beloved Mirfanders. This included several papier-mâché Miranda heads. Miranda heads made of papier-mâché. Oh, and she thinks her fans are of age, and people. Oh, Jesus Christ! This is yeah. Homemade figurines, stacks upon stacks of fan mail, and drawings of something called the Daddy Saddle. Oh my good God. I touched on the Daddy Saddle in a recent video of her, and it is basically, it's something that you put on your daddy. Well, your daddy puts on your phone. No, I can't believe I even have to say. Jesus Christ. The Daddy Saddle, I would come to learn, is an item featured in many of Miranda Sings videos, and it's used to allow Miranda to more easily ride around on her uncle's back. The uncle character was something that Colleen took great pride in. Oh, that would be the uncle that she invented to as a storyline to allow for the whole molestation storyline. It is as strange as it sounds. I often wonder though, did any parent who allowed their kids to watch this, did any parent actually take the time to look into this? Would you have thought, if you were looking up who your kids are interested in, and you were going to take them to their shows, and you saw there was this character that Miranda had brought into the show that was molesting her and talking to your kids about that, I can't fathom a situation which would make that okay. I'm sorry. Where were we? The uncle character was something that Colleen took great pride in. She had spent years building him into this essential Miranda Sings lore, and once we began to break stories for the show, it became clear that he was going to be an integral part of it. Miranda and Uncle Jim had a, in the character's word, special relationship. She often pitched stories in which Miranda and Uncle Jim would be caught in compromising positions or stomach-churning moments of intimacy that could always be explained away by a clueless Miranda. It was my responsibility to write down every single one of these pitches. Oh, Jesus. Can you imagine being this woman, being on the writing the stories and you know, just being there with Miranda, Colleen, explaining to her all these storylines that are going to involve this Uncle Jim that loves to molest her, and this is for a kids show on Netflix. Just absolutely mind-boggling. Speaking of which, how the hell did Netflix pass this? I have no idea. It was my responsibility to write down every single one of these pitches, schedule calls to look at mock-ups of the daddy saddle that would be featured on the show, and mark points in the script where Colleen thought we could make an Uncle Jim. What the fuck? And mark points in the script where Colleen thought we could make Uncle Jim even more rapey. What the actual what actual universe is this? What actually is this? I really I can't imagine a situation where that would be okay. I mean, surely one of the people in that room, surely everybody in that room must have been uncomfortable. And surely at least one of them would have said something like, "Are you okay, Colleen? Are you sure you're fine?" Or maybe report it to Netflix and say, "Look, I don't think this is appropriate for the audience you're putting it out for." Just saying, it doesn't sound like it's something that people might take kindly to. It's unbelievable, honestly. I don't know if I've heard anything that bad for a long time. As you can imagine, this all made me so uncomfortable. Here I was, the odd one out in every conceivable way, tasked to aid Colleen as she pursued her singular goal of showing as much incestual innuendo into the show as possible, while assuaging the growing behind-the-scenes concerns that the show would be alienating to the intended audience, which it was, again, kids. It all felt deeply wrong. She would show us photos of the packed rows of smiling children who had attended her show the night before, and in the same breath spend hours trying to think of a way to show Miranda and Uncle Jim all but having actual sex on screen. I mean, can you imagine that? Again, I keep saying that. Can you imagine that? You sat there and Colleen's going, "Yeah, I had this child and her legs were split in front of me yesterday. It was amazing. But, like, next week we'll shoot that clip of Uncle Jim, molesting me." It's like, what? Are you taking the piss? And Colleen really thinks that she's innocent in, like, life. I don't think so, after reading all of this. I felt insane. This was my first job, a coveted writer's assistant position, and I was terrified to be seen as anything less than enthusiastic to be there. Colleen made accomplishing that a Herculean feat. Yeah, I think that it's important to note that this was probably definitely a huge role for this lady. who's in her first major job, but the show itself was huge. Miranda was huge in terms of like viewing figures. The actual character was a huge thing on YouTube, and it was coming to Netflix, and like I can't imagine that many people would have been likely to want to stand up and say, look, this is a bit inappropriate, don't you think? They're probably like thinking, maybe thinking, but just not able to say it because like they could get fired, and they obviously don't want to do that anyway. Not only was I behind the keyboard typing in jokes into the script that to a vulnerable child could easily make it nearly impossible to identify inappropriate adult behaviour in their own lives, but as we neared production, I had a whole new wave of concerns. Now, that's a very important point, right? And it's one that we shouldn't just glaze over. What Colleen is doing, or had been doing, is making jokes to children about inappropriate behaviour, which makes it seem okay when, like, say their own uncle or another family member or somebody in their lives touches them in inappropriate ways, and Colleen is basically saying this is okay, it's just a joke, right? So that is another level of just making it feel wrong. Well, it is wrong. You can't mess with kids. Most people these days spend so much time trying to undo that sort of mindset in kids' heads to make them want to speak up if they are getting touched inappropriately. But Colleen, no, she did the actual opposite and tried so hard to make it seem normal for that sort of thing to happen, and that's just really concerning. Another one of my responsibilities was to sit in on production meetings, all virtual as the writer's room was in LA and filming was to take place in Vancouver, and take notes. It was in those meetings that I had to document Colleen's insistence that we used... Oh my word. I had to document Colleen's insistence that we used limited POC background actors as the show took place in Washington, and having them just randomly there would be distracting. So Colleen was actually saying to limit the amount of black actors because it would be distracting. Does this get any better? This whole thing, does it actually get any better? Because this is really, really horrendous. I took note as Colleen was shown an Asian food market that would be redressed as a bodega for the show, and watched her disgust as she demanded assurance that all the Asian shit would be removed before filming. Okay, now. Oh, seriously? I sat patiently as the powers that be expressed concern that the entire main cast for the show was white, and silently prayed that since someone with actual say had spoken up, things might change. And I took note yet again as Colleen assured them that they had only casted the best person for each role, and that it wasn't her fault at all if those people ended up being white. What? So, on one hand, she's telling April and others to limit the amount of black people, and on the other hand, she wants to be seen to be apologetic if all the people ended up being white, because she apparently cast the best people for the role and it didn't matter their skin colour. So I just... Wow. I think this is a screenshot of a conversation or something that April sent to a friend, from what I can gather, about what was going on. And this is just insane again. April says, "We're rewatching auditions from earlier this morning, watching the tape of this black actor, who is very fine, by the way. But anyway, the lighting wasn't great, and Colleen just shouted out loud, 'Where is he?' implying he is so dark-skinned he disappeared." I honestly, I don't really know how to respond to that. That just makes me feel really uncomfortable and sad, you know? One, you can totally see him. It was just overcast this morning. Two, black is beautiful. And three, get me the fuck out of here. It's like, I can't even, I don't know. Okay, the whole thing is just so insane. What went on? I mean, oh, Jesus. Content of the show aside, it was difficult to work for Colleen. She had a knack for making funny, biting comments about the people around her, and since we all had her to thank for our jobs, we were forced to just go with it. She had no issue with commenting on my hair or my clothes or asking about my personal life. Her lack of boundaries was remarkable. Most days, the first hour or so of work was dedicated to Colleen forcing us all to perform the emotional labour of counselling her through her marital concern. Okay, so this sounds so familiar. So if you've watched all my other videos, you'll know that Colleen had no issues talking to minors, in fact, about her marital problems. So she also laid that on a plate to all her people at Netflix as well. Yeah. Being a listening ear to her complaints about fans, they were being so sensitive lately, aka they had spoken up about their discomfort with her using a black scent. Speaking with a black accent. And getting the latest updates on the antics of her fellow YouTubers. I recall overhearing her once brag that a creator was being cancelled for saying the N-word. And if you think she went with N-word instead of hitting that hard R, then you haven't been paying attention. Oh, okay. What? Jesus in fuck. So basically, she didn't say the N-word. She actually said the word, you know. And that she would never be stupid enough to get caught doing something like that. Oh, that reminds me of a song I know, Colleen.
I feel like I can already hear the comments on this video. She's gaslighting, manipulating. Oh, she's a narcissist and a rat. I would never make a mistake like that.
Oh my word. Absolutely insanity. She once gave me the honour of naming a character after me. A villain at Miranda's school who thought she was better than everyone else because she was a Christian. Colleen made it known on several occasions that she could tell I was less than thrilled with the show, even once pulling me aside and quipping, "You totally hate this, right?" I could tell that my discomfort with the art that we were creating was notable to her. She would often pitch something vile and then look over to me and ask, "Any thoughts, April?" It was almost like she took a weird pleasure in making me uncomfortable and knowing that even if I wanted to, there was absolutely nothing I could do about it. She was cruel And it was that same cruelty that I recognised in the video she posted on Wednesday addressing the many allegations that have been piling up against her over the last few weeks. My 2 seasons on Haters Back Off were unfortunately not my only experience being deeply uncomfortable in the workplace while in pursuit of my dream of becoming a television writer. I have worked with sexists, with racists, with people who called me a diversity hire behind my back, with people who wanted applause for resisting the urge to touch my hair despite all its delicious textures, and with people who were both threatened by my voice and desperate for my approval. And each time I encounter yet another abuser in the workplace, I notice that they seem to all have something in common: an unwavering contempt for cancel culture and a pathological failure to demonstrate even an iota of accountability. Let me be the millionth person to say it: cancel culture is not real. The majority of the people I know who work in the industry have spent years of their lives waiting, hoping that an article will finally drop, naming the sins of the abuser they endured and finishing them for good. And each one has had to stand by and watch as that person is dragged on Twitter for a few days, removed from a project or two, and is back on their feet in time for the next year's Emmys. There is no witch hunt, no toxic gossip train, no dangerous mob hell-bent on destroying the life of an innocent person just for something to do. The truth is, there are real people who have had real experiences that have affected them a great deal, and there are narcissists who choose to cover their ears and look the other way. I actually absolutely agree with that. People saying, "Oh, cancel culture is bad." It's not. It's just, if you do something wrong, you get held accountable for it. It's not people trying to cancel you for the sake of cancelling you. It's just trying to do the right thing and get people to be held accountable to something. I don't know what's next for Miranda Sings, but one thing I do know is that Adam and Becky and Johnny and everyone else who has spoken out are all owed, at the very least, a thoughtful, sincere apology, one that acknowledges the very real pain they are clearly in, gives them the respect that they deserve, and is 100% ukulele free. And while she's at it, I would love my $250 back for the hour I spent just having to explain all of this to my therapist. Well, that was certainly an eye-opening half hour's experience for us all. I really hope that you managed to get through the whole thing, because some of that was really, really important. And, I'm still lost for words on a lot of what I've just been through there. Really, really, actually dumbfounded by the level of crap that she's been up to. And the thing with the molesty uncle, and the racism, and just every little bit of it is just insane. So I hope you've found this interesting at the very least. Until next time, please give this video a thumbs up, comment everything you want to comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you want to continue to hear more about this story and others. Until next... the weather. Sorry, we're having an impromptu weather storm here going on. Thunder, lightning, and all sorts. I'm going to go before I get exploded. Go. Ciao. Bye.